Everyone has heard of our president, Donald Trump, calling out media for being fake news. But what is fake news, and how does it affect you? I'm actually glad you asked. Hi, I'm Wesley Manning, and I would like to take this opportunity to speak to you on the issue of media bias and censorship. We live in a society where basically any information that you need, anything you want to learn, can just be found on the internet almost instantaneously. If you want to learn how to do something, you can just go to YouTube, look it up, and pretty soon you'll probably be able to do it yourself. But unfortunately, not all things can be trusted on the internet, particularly having to do with politics and controversial topics. From my research, according to US News, Google is actually the biggest provider of information, but they're also one of the largest censors in the world. It is reported that Google has at least 9 different blacklists of things that they like to block on their website, and they're not exactly fair. When they decide which information to hide, they can hurt individual reputations and businesses that would otherwise do well, because Google is one of the biggest providers of advertising services in the world. Online censorship is under-regulated right now, but something needs to be done because something like Google is continually censoring stuff that they don't necessarily agree with. At this point, when I go to look for a controversial topic, I don't know who to trust and where to look because the first results are always handpicked by Google. US News reports a list of 9 different blacklists, so I'll read through those real quickly. The autocomplete blacklist. This is a list of words and phrases that are excluded from the autocomplete feature. SearchEngineLand.com gives an example of this in action. If you type lying into Google, the next word that usually comes up would be Ted, which is the moniker for Ted Cruz that Donald Trump gave him when he was running for president. But if you type in crooked, Hillary will not come up because it has been censored out by Google, even though it is another one of the monikers at the same level of lying Ted. And for this situation, this censorship needs to be stopped because it's not fair. If it was consistent, it would be alright, but it's not at all. Next we have the Google News blacklist. Google hosts the largest collection of news in the world, yet it also nearly handpicks these and bans news that it simply doesn't agree with that match their morals. In 2006, Google was accused of excluding conservative news sources that were critical of Islam in a certain situation. And this is just not fair for them. Finally, the Google AdWords blacklist. This majority of Google's revenue comes from their advertising service, and the way that businesses get on there is they bid for a certain word that will lead to their product or their webpage. But Google unfairly banned some companies from using these services simply because their morals didn't line up with Google's. The problem is Google doesn't get to make this choice because they're basically the only major advertising service out there that people still use besides the television. So does this make you think differently of Google? What about the issue of censorship? In theory, censorship could potentially be good because it blocks incorrect or information that doesn't match up properly with what you're looking for. It can stop toxic content or stuff that's off topic. But if you look into the way it's been used, it is very hurtful to the average American citizen. With attention to the news at an all-time high, it's more apparent than ever that these big corporations called media outlets are using half-truths and emotion to manipulate the American population. According to Inc.com, false news is more likely to be shared on social media than the truth. But why is this? This is because they play with our emotions and get our attention by using strong words and exciting phrases that draw you into them. Day after day, news providers use giant headlines and strong words that grab your attention if you're just in the general vicinity of a television. With the help of the research of Janet Ossebaard, I can paint an example for you. The widely covered story of the migrant caravan of Central Americans traveling on foot to the American border was very falsely spread to the American population. Supposedly, these people walked 2,175 miles on foot over a month and a half. That would mean that each day they walked 45 miles on foot just to get to America, and they did so illegally. But this in itself is pretty crazy, but not completely insane. If these people are actually this passionate about getting to America, it could happen. However, if you look into it more and the way that it was reported, you can see that it was definitely falsified and designed to lead you into believing and feeling strong emotion against President Trump. Despite walking 2,175 miles, the people were shown wearing nearly brand new clothes, and they weren't even dirty or sweaty. Yet, supposedly, they just walked this whole way without any assistance. People were even shown with flip-flops as shoes or barefoot, yet their feet were clean and they didn't have blisters or anything. They were also shown without necessary supplies for the journey, like food or backpacks to store quilts and different things that they would need when they spend the night. But the way this was executed was quite crafty. There were actually buses sent down to South Mexico that were used to bring people up to the border and use it for the story. Filming teams were set up and recorded them just so that they could get the story to influence the American population. So how does all of this make you feel? It should make you angry towards these people who report this and who censor certain information that they don't want you to hear. So I'll conclude by saying, if a story seems highly unlikely and very emotionally stimulating, there's a good chance it was probably formulated. So stay woke and don't just share a story on social media to look like you're informed, because it's probably fake.